Hi guys, it's Phoebe. Sorry for the really weird angle. As you can probably tell, things look a little bit different than they have. I have once again moved my setup. And then I guess jumping into number 2, I was not planning at all on filming, but I got put on call from work tonight and figured kind of why not? I'll do something with my surprise free evening. And the reason things look different and the reason I wasn't really planning on filming is because I recently went through a breakup. So I am still in the same house as I was before, but things have gotten moved around a bit. And for hopefully obvious reasons, I have not really felt up to filming. But I figured I would get on really quick and do an update of the books that I did get to in October. It's not all the ones that I had planned on getting to. When I filmed my October TBR, I filmed in advance and set it up to be automatically posted on October 1st. And that it came out in a really I was not in a great mental headspace at that time. So my reading, again, for obvious reasons, suffered a little bit. But all of that being said, let's get into what I did read in October. I read Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None. This book I didn't really love. It's the first Agatha Christie that I've ever read. I'll go ahead and put that out there right now. But I didn't really love it because to me it was just so short and so rushed. It was just like, the characters were being killed off very rapidly and there weren't a lot of clues left for the reader as to what was happening. And to the point where at the end she had to write like an epilogue that explains what happens. I guess for a little synopsis of the story, it's about a group of people who, to their knowledge, are randomly selected, invited to this isolated island home, and while they're there, the guests start dying off one by one, basically. And I just didn't love that it was impossible pretty much to figure out how things got done without the explanation. And again, it just felt really short and rushed, so you didn't really get connected to the characters or the story. And so for those reasons, this just wasn't really for me. I also read Stephen King's The Bazaar of Bad Dreams, which is a collection of short stories. It's a little bit newer. I want to say it came out in 2018, maybe? Okay, 2015, so not quite as new as I thought. Anyway, so obviously I can't really do a synopsis for the entire book, and I feel like collections of short stories are kind of hard to rate because obviously each short story is a little different. I will say I did appreciate, I think, his short stories more than his actual books because as anyone who's read Stephen King knows, he can be very long-winded and I feel like really get caught up in details and kind of go down like rabbit holes and things of that nature. And so actually in the prologue to this book, he talked about how when he writes short stories, he has to like really focus himself and make sure the story stays short. So to me, that did make them more enjoyable because the man had to stay on track and couldn't wander on things. But then the issue that I had with some of the stories is an issue that I feel like is very common for Stephen King readers. The man always weirdly sexualizes his female characters to the point where, I don't know, like every short story has some kind of uncomfortable talk about usually breasts. And it just always kind of takes me out of the headspace of the story because it really lets you know you're in a Stephen King story when it just gets uncomfortably sexual, I guess. Some of them were pretty creepy and good. Some of them a little less so. I would say if you're a fan of Stephen King, you probably like it. If Stephen King is not your thing, this is still not going to be your thing. I'm not mad that I picked it up and read it. but it wasn't life-changing horror. Then I read the nonfiction book Serial Killers by Brian Ennis. This book, if you're into like the true crime kind of stuff, this would probably be interesting to you. I didn't really learn much from this book. Every section on the serial killers, if I can show you, is pretty short. Just a few pages long. That's like it for the Hillside Stranglers. Like that's it for them. So they're pretty brief. So I can't say I really gleaned much information from this. It was a super quick read. I read it in like maybe 2 days or something. And yeah, I really don't have much to say for it beyond that. It was a little cut and dry, obviously, because of space restrictions. So I can't say I highly recommend it. I bought this book bargain price from a bookstore. And unless you found it bargain priced and were interested in that subject material, I'd probably say it's not worth your time. I'm so happy I got to read Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. This book was really fun, really unexpected. It is about our main character, Noemi, who gets this kind of weird letter from her cousin who has married into this family who lives in a really secluded area. And she goes to visit her cousin to basically make sure that she's okay. And so the story kind of follows her unraveling the secrets of this family. And all I can say about this is that you will not see the ending or conclusion of this story coming. I thought this was super unique, super fun. The title Mexican Gothic is definitely really fitting for what this book was, and I would highly recommend this to you if any of that sounds interesting. Also, you know I had to get to my girl Ruth Ware's book, The It Girl. This, I feel like, was on the same level as all of her books are pretty much to me. Just a really enjoyable thriller, really kept me, I think, this might have been the first book that I read in October to get me out of my reading slump. And it definitely worked, couldn't put it down. And again, one of those books where the conclusion is satisfying, and as opposed to the Agatha Christie novel, And Then There Were None, there are clues dropped along the way, but the pieces don't really fall together until the end. I will say that this was a book where, for me at least, the ending was unexpected until pretty much the very end, when the actual killer was revealed. I'm really bad about doing synopses before I guess, give my opinion of the book. This book is about our main character, Hannah, who grew up relatively poor in England and goes on to university at Oxford, where she kind of falls into this really wealthy friend group. And her best friend and roommate, her name is April. And during their first year there, April is murdered, and Hannah ends up being like the key witness to send her murderer to prison. And the book starts when years later he has passed away, and it kind of brings up a lot of old feelings for Hannah, and she kind of starts to begin to reinvestigate her friend's murder and dive deeper into what actually happened that night. So if you like thrillers, if you like Ruth Ware, I would highly recommend this book. I had a really great time reading it. And finally, probably one of the top books that I've read this year, A Monster Calls, which is by Patrick Ness. The author Siobhan Dowd started writing this book, I believe, and then she passed away, so Patrick Ness came back and finished it. I'm really sorry. I don't know anything about Siobhan Dowd or what this situation was. And then it has some illustrations by Jim Kay, and it's gotten awards for the writing and the illustrations. This book was not at all what I expected. I'm not really sure what I expected, honestly. But this is a book about a young boy who is dealing with a lot of complicated emotions. He's like grade school aged. His mother is dying of cancer. He's being bullied at school. And on top of it all, his parents are divorced. So he's dealing with a lot of emotions about his mother, His dad also lives in America and he lives in England, so that's a lot for him to go through as well. And then bullying is obviously something really difficult that children face. And so this book to me was a really wonderful way of, I feel like if you were a child going through something difficult, this book would really speak to you. There is a tree outside the boy's window who mysteriously transforms into a monster. And at first the boy is really afraid of this monster, obviously. But the monster goes on to helping him work through these difficult and complicated emotions. And I don't want to give more away than that because I feel like that might already be too much of the plot given away. But this was really unexpected. It definitely made me cry. And I thought this was really lovely and beautiful and deep at my age. And I just think that in the hands of the right child, this story could especially mean so much more. Those are all the books I got to in October. I am, like I said, in a bit of a reading slump at the moment. I'm trying to figure out some other fun videos I could give myself to do besides just the monthly wrap-ups because they're not super fun to film, honestly, and I feel like they're not as fun to watch as like a rant review or my Classy with the Classics, which I haven't done in so long. I just don't know of any other classics I have to go through, honestly. But if anyone watches this and has any suggestions for me, that would be great. And the more specific you could be about your suggestions, the better. Because I am not loving making a lot of choices about things right now because I have lots of things that I'm trying to make important decisions on, other than this fun little channel that I come on and just film and talk to my phone about books and stuff that I'm reading. But I hope all of you are doing really well, and I will see you in another video soon. Bye!